Do you understand that when you stand in any moment in time, that the non-physical part of you that we are calling your inner being is focused upon exactly what you're focused upon at exactly that same time, and has a very strong perspective, or you might even say opinion, about what you're focused upon? So here's the rule of thumb that we would apply if we were standing in your physical shoes, and that is, when we're feeling good, we would talk in greater detail about whatever it is we're feeling good about. And anytime we're not feeling good, we would stop the talk. Go general. When you don't feel good, don't be specific, because that speeds things up. And you don't want to speed yourself up in the opposition to what you want. So just talk more if it feels good and talk less if it doesn't. That really is the simple and very powerful tool. If when you focus on it, it feels really good to you, that means you're so in sync with your inner being that your thriving is heightened. But if you feel negative emotion, that means the very thoughts you're thinking are in absolute opposition to what your inner being knows. So when you're being hard on yourself, or when you're regretting something, or when you're remembering some put down that someone applied to you, or some put down that you applied to someone else, it's really vivid. In fact, we want to put it to you in such a strong way. If your inner being didn't have such love and respect and understanding of your value, you could never feel the negative emotion that you feel. Because the negative emotion that you feel is relational to the way your inner being feels. So doesn't that make sense? When you're mad at yourself or down on yourself, that's proof of how your inner being feels. The more you hate something, the more proof there is of the love that is there that you're denying in that moment. Once you get that in your consciousness, then that sense of worthiness and that sense of right place, right time comes forward. We want to help you to feel clarification about. Yeah, it does feel like life's doing things to you. And it does feel like others are doing things to you. It feels like people in power or people in control can affect your experience, because if they weren't doing that, you wouldn't be feeling this. But there is no assertion in this attraction-based universe. So the hard and sometimes suck it up, buttercup, uncomfortable truth of it is, you're doing it all to yourself. And very often your inner being called you into things to give you clarification. You would not have a vortex like you have if it were not for the life experience that you've lived. And every bit of that was intended as you made the decision to come into this physical experience. So many choices about so many things that are serving you so well, you see. And so here you are, thinking very clearly, understanding the process, and on your way to deliberate creation. There is no sweeter living of life than to have launched a rocket, maybe even unconsciously, somehow come into awareness that there's something that you want that you're not a vibrational match to, because your negative emotion is letting you know it. And then focus yourself into positive emotion about it, and then watch the universe yield it to you. That conscious realization or association between the thoughts that you have deliberately been thinking and the manifestation that follows, there is no greater high or greater enthusiasm or greater zest or greater awareness of your purpose of life than that. Talk about enhancing your sense of worthiness, you see. No one else can pronounce you worthy, because nobody else can pinch you off from the abundance that you seek. It's only you that can pinch yourself off. So it's only you that can open up to it. So you have to prove isn't exactly the right word that we're wanting Esther to find, but you have to demonstrate to yourself what your vibrational acuity is, and then just practice it. And then watch others stand in astonishment as they see you say it and mean it and get it over and over and over again. Teach to the clarity of your example. I don't talk about what I don't want, and I don't listen to others talking about what I don't want. If I'm at a dinner table or at a party and they're talking about lack or sickness or things that I don't want, I get up and I go find something else to do, and I come back, and if they're still talking about it, I get up and I come back, and if they're still talking about it, I get up, and if I come back and they're still talking about it, I get up. Do not endure conversations coming out of your mouth or anybody else's mouth about yours or anybody else's deficiency. And don't walk away in anger. You're not running away from what you don't want. You never can. You run away from it, it just comes right along with you. Go to where you want to go, in other words, and look back smiling at them. Love you guys. Talk to you when you start talking right. Now, this is the best part of this conversation. So, do you get it? Do you understand that your inner being is standing over here in this vortex, being all that you've asked for? Being so much more than you've been able yet to allow yourself to be? Being it so powerfully, law of attraction, summoning and calling you to your own beingness. But you can only hear as much as the resistance in your experience allows you to hear. So when we talk about your inner being calling you, your inner being is calling you along your path of least resistance. And your inner being knows what things you can hear and what things you're not ready to hear. You follow that? So when we talk about being in the receptive mode where you hear or you get an impulse, that's just the impulse that you're most ready to hear at any given time, given the resistance that you hold. And so it would be accurate to say that you rarely really hear what your inner being is calling you to, but your inner being is completely content just to call you over there so it can call you over there, 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 so it can finally call you over there. You see? And along the way, every impulse, every feeling is as much as you can get, and it's as much as you are able to decipher, given the resistance that you hold. And every time it's enough. Every time it's just right. One thing leads to another, leads to another. It's not so different from Esther losing her beautiful gold pen. And they'd moved to another state and she couldn't find it, and she really wanted it. It was expensive, it was meaningful, and it was her favorite thing to write letters with. It was a beautiful fountain pen, so well balanced in her hand, and she couldn't find it. She looked everywhere, unpacked every box, went through all of her handbags, went through her handbags instantly, kept going back to the closet, feeling through them, feeling in the lining, feeling them. It's gone, it's gone, it's gone. She said to Jerry, I cannot find it. He said, oh good, something to buy. But Esther wasn't satisfied. This one was sentimental. She wanted it. She really, really wanted it, but she could not find it. And we explained to her, you cannot find what's lost. You cannot find something that you believe is lost. You cannot find something you believe you cannot find. Talk about resistance on your trail. If it's lost, even if it's there, you can't see it. It's lost. We're not kidding you. Your perception, you are translating thoughts to things, and your perception is everything, you see. So then she finally gave up on it, just accepted that it was gone. Didn't want to, but did. And then about a month later, she was looking for a little perfume sprayer. Hadn't seen it either. So she reached in a purse that she thought it was last in and came out with that pen. She wasn't looking for the pen that was lost anymore. So then she could find it. And so that's kind of what goes on. In other words, your inner being will guide you. So Esther's inner being guided her to look for the perfume that she believed was in the place where the pen was. You see what we're getting at? Because her inner being knew where the pen was. Esther had felt around in that bag, dumped it upside down. It is uncanny how clever the universe is to give you what you believe. So you're never doing anything wrong. You're doing some clarifying things. How do you find your balance? How do you find your balance if you don't test it a little bit? How do you know what feels good if you don't allow yourself to know what feels bad? How do you know what your inner being really thinks about you and other things if you don't think in opposition to it sometimes? How do you know? You wouldn't know. And it's helpful to remember, sometimes your inner being will call you through something that you think you don't want on your way to something that you do want, because the clarification is necessary. Because you've already created it, how are you going to define the specifics of what you want if you don't have some association with it in order to define them? Did you hear that? That is so important. It's so important to acknowledge that in earlier conversations we've been talking about the emotional scale, where vulnerability or fear are in the worst feeling place. And then there's anger, which feels way better. And then there's blame and guilt and overwhelmment and frustration, long before you get to any of those feelings that feel like appreciation and love and joy and all of that sort of stuff. And so if you're feeling like a victim, anger is your friend. Your inner being is calling you and can call you from despair all the way into joy. You just can't hear it. But you can hear the inspiration to anger because you're close enough to it. You can hear that. So others will look at you and think, oh, Abraham, that can't be right. You can't be saying that someone's inner being, someone whose source energy would actually call someone to anger. Yeah. Call you into anger because it's so much better than the despair that you're feeling or the vulnerability that you're feeling or the victim that you're feeling. And so that anger is a step in the right direction. And yes, indeed, your inner being is calling you not to stay there, because your inner being is going to keep calling you from anger, revenge, all of that, right through it into hope and so on. But your inner being is always calling you. Talk about a friend, talk about support, talk about someone who knows, talk about never-ending love, talk about understanding who you are, you see. So the more you know that, the more you are likely to listen for that, to feel for that, until in time, those vibrations are rarely in your experience. They will never be completely gone because you're going to be eager for life and looking for more experiences and wanting more exposure and wanting to put more things into your vortex. But it's all good, you see. It's a wonderful thing to know what you now know. Well, here's what's going on. You're really going to like this. All of you are. So as you're sifting through the details of life, you're launching these incremental rockets of desire. And it's not likely, maybe even possible, for any of you to really comprehend the full picture that you have incrementally been painting. So your vortex, let's just start by saying, is vaster and more extraordinary than its individual components that you've tossed in. Because each desire is a vibrational thinking, attracting entity, attracting to itself. And so that's why this reality that you're creating here vibrationally is getting bigger and bolder and more dynamic. And that's why you can't yet see it and hear it and smell it and taste it and touch it, but you can sense it. So then, as you begin to articulate the things that you believe you are wanting, you're articulating as best you can through the resistance that you hold, because almost everyone has enough resistance within them that they can't really understand what's going on in here. You can feel it, but you can't speak it into being quite yet. That's an excellent demonstration of what we're talking about. Your inner being is always guiding you to the path of least resistance. And it's your path and it's your resistance. And we really want you to hear us when we say your inner being holds no judgment about the resistance that is on your path. Just understands it and guides you over and under and around and through it. What difference does it make? Aren't interesting journeys interesting? So the key is to just be as happy as you can be, as often as you can be happy, and therefore in the state of as least resistance as possible, and then follow your impulses. That takes a little practice to trust yourself to do that, doesn't it?